Well, we are in the final days of the election campaign, and I think it's a very exciting campaign, partly because we don't know how it's going to end, partly because it's so unexpected. Some of the news announcements or unannouncements. One of the things we're going to talk about today is Barack Obama breaking with tradition, breaking with custom, breaking with diplomatic norms, and endorsing a candidate in the Canadian election. You can see here that he endorsed Justin Trudeau. We'll talk about that. One of the things I like about this campaign is that so much of it happens in the hands of severely normal people, not just the media party. And maybe it's because I like to tweet on Twitter, but Twitter's a very democratic forum. Anyone can have a voice on there. And one of the most influential voices on Twitter in this Canadian election, and this is not just my personal view, even though I agree with most of what he says, it's based on the number of clicks and shares and impressions. Well, I'm talking about, obviously, our good friend Manny Montenegro, who joins us now via Skype from Ottawa. Manny, you've had a great election campaign. Your name's not on the ballot, but everyone's talking about and sharing and reading your tweets. You're making a difference.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm glad to have this format, and there's a teacher inside me, and I'd like to put out facts and truths, and I think it's absent in a lot of tweets. I mean, I get a lot of people tweeting their feelings and how they're hurt and what they want, but I tend to go look at facts and provide facts and commentary, and it's missing. So I get a lot of replies and a lot of people sharing because it's information. I'm putting information out.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it.
Well, I mean, we've talked before, you have a real legal analysis, you break things down,
right.
But one thing that impresses me is you remember relevant facts and you bring them, like for example, today we're going to talk a little bit about Barack Obama endorsing Justin Trudeau despite the blackface, and you reminded our producer, hey, Al Sharpton had something to say about that. So you've got a institutional memory for politics that is great. It's been very helpful for our show, I have to tell you.
And it's very helpful in, like, for instance, in your opening, you said Obama broke precedent by endorsing a candidate in Canada. Well, there's history to that too. And you remind me of the fact when there was an election in 2016, and there was a good chance that President Trump would win, Trudeau had a state dinner for Obama, which broke all precedents. He was campaigning very hard for Hillary Clinton, and yet now I'm saying it's a Canadian precedent that was broken. Obviously, the Prime Minister ought not to have one of the people that were advocating for Hillary Clinton a state dinner, a lame duck steak dinner. So that pops up as well. It is about. I mean, building a case, Ezra, as you know, requires you understanding all the facts and putting all the facts together and going through it historical. When you see a pattern, you can convince either a judge or a jury that you've got it right. So that's what I try to do.
You know, just for 1 second there, you reminded me of another great lawyer who also happens to be of Italian heritage. For 1 second there, you reminded me of Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
And that's a great compliment.
Well, thank you. Thank you. No, I think that's just an attribute. I was taught, back in '79 as a student, I was told by one of the greatest lawyers in Ottawa, says, there's one thing you can't change in a trial, and that's the facts. And so that stuck with me. So if you follow the facts, you'll probably get to the proper conclusion and the proper determination of issue. And so I bring that to Twitter. I was told by one of my kids that one of my tweets was copied and sent on a Reddit format, which I'm not familiar with it, and it received, I don't know, it's the top page of Reddit, and it could be, and it was a Canadian political tweet, so it could be the hundreds of thousands or millions that looked at it. So it's exciting to at least put out facts, and that's what because it really, Ezra, my biggest dismay of everything is how bad the media is, and I'm not including you. You do a wonderful job with facts, but really the facts and starving people of the facts. People are smart enough. Give them the facts, they'll figure it out. And so I try to do what I can.
Well, listen, we love having you, and you've been a real star in this campaign. But let's get into that Obama tweet. I'm going to read it in full. Let's just put it back up on the screen for a session. He said, I was proud to work with Justin Trudeau as president. He's a hard-working, effective leader who takes on big issues like climate change. The world needs his progressive leadership now, and I hope our neighbors to the north support him for another term. And that was shared and liked hundreds of thousands of times, which you might imagine, given Barack Obama's persuasiveness with the Democratic Party and around the world even. Trudeau responded to it. Let's just put that up. He said, thanks, my friend. We're working hard to keep our progress going. So this was a very friendly ping pong match back and forth. My view, Manny, and let me throw this to you, is that this was scripted a long time ago. I don't know if you're familiar with that group, Canada 2020. It's a liberal think tank run by Trudeau's friend. Back in May, they paid Barack Obama his speaking fee, which is generally $400,000 US, to come to town to give a speech. So they paid Barack Obama $500,000 Canadian dollars. And I tell you, it sure looks like a quid pro quo to get an endorsement from him a few days before the election. I just think that should be reported as some sort of election expense.
Well, Ezra, I do know 2020, Canada 2020. When I was managing my law firm, I attended as part of my duties as the manager of the law firm, and I was at a table with a man that is now very prominent. His name is Gerald Butts, and we were having dinner there. And it was very clear to me, and I told Gerald, I said, you're not going to like me. Why is that? And I told him I'm a Canadian patriot, and I will fight for Canada. And I think I was blocked about 2 days. I was the first person blocked from Jerry Butts, so I'm very proud of that. But that 2020 organization, I know everybody that's involved in it. I'm in Ottawa, and they are as liberal as you can get, and it's just a tool, another tool that the Liberal Party uses to advance themselves, and it masks itself as a think tank of sorts. But no, Ezra, that tweet of Obama's was, it just made me. This is crazy to say, but happy, and I'll tell you why. Because the progressive movement in the world is falling. It's falling around the world, and you can see, whether it be Italy, whether it be England, France, obviously America, and it's because they really are hypocritical. I mean, their ideas, you may not disagree or agree with their ideas, and the people that do, but it just never holds or has the tenure because it's based on people who are hypocritical. And most people don't like hypocrisy. And this tweet from Obama, and I'll bring you through it, and as I always do, Ezra, I'll go through the facts and the history. This is a man who, one of his first acts is a Buy America policy. Right. Well, before Trump, that was a slight and an attack on Canadian business. He was the one who created Buy America. That hurt Canada.
And just to remind our viewers, that means that the U.S. government would have a bias, a preference not to buy Canadian imports. And I understand going to trade war against China or India or wherever, but to shut out Canada, that was devastating what Obama did.
And the media did make a big deal of it because, well, we love Obama. Yeah. So that was the first thing. The other thing, I referenced the state dinner that Obama had with Trudeau when he was a lame duck president during a campaign. And I said, well, okay, that was very offensive. Trudeau should not be favoring a one side of the election in America. But I said, you know what? We were in the middle of a softwood lumber fight where there was $1 billion at stake and there was appeals. And I said, well, maybe, and this is where you learn about Trudeau, maybe he's doing the state dinner, he's going to come back and say, we have a softwood lumber deal. Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
that so he didn't use the state dinner for anything other than building Obama and building his.
And Trudeau likes a party. Trudeau likes a dress-up party to invite all his friends. Well, listen, you mentioned Obama's policies. I think one reason why people like Obama appreciate Trudeau is because Trudeau's a pushover. I noticed that Barack Obama did not kill the Keystone XL pipeline during Stephen Harper's tenure. Even though he delayed, he didn't actually have the confidence to kill it till Harper lost. And Obama knew that Trudeau wouldn't make a fuss, wouldn't push. So Obama felt like he could push Trudeau around. China knows it can push Trudeau around. And I think that's one of the reasons why Barack Obama likes Trudeau, is because Trudeau would just have no opinions, not assert Canada's interest, including on oil.
Well, yeah, and I think he also, that whole Keystone pipeline, Obama campaigned that he would approve it, and then he didn't. That also hurt Canada. So you're absolutely right. The one that I just find it absolutely hypocritical, and I don't know why people are not focused on it. And in that tweet, he talks about the environment. Barack Obama signed a emissions deal, a climate deal with China. Mm-hmm. Now, let me just give you, that was posted in the New York Times, mm-hmm. and that's where I got it, and I read the deal. Mm-hmm. And it was at that time, and I think it was 2 or 3 years ago now, at that time, China, the deal was, and Obama was seen as a champion. The deal was China can emit without limitations up to the year 2030. And at the year of 2030, China may, in the language, you know how lawyers are, we look at the language, it isn't must, but may consider that being the ceiling. So China can emit to 2030. Now, since the deal that Obama did, and we know what we've been told by the advocates of climate change, 2030 is a critical year. Basically, if CO2 rises 10%, the world CO2 rises by 10%, we're facing a climate disaster. Well, that's what we've been hearing, but yet Obama penned and permitted and allowed China, the greatest producer, to basically create the climate disaster. Since that time, and I did some calculations, Ezra, since the time that Obama did the deal with China, China has added 4 Canadas. I mean, think of what I'm saying. You take all the emissions from Canada, multiply it by 4, and that's what China added. Not that what it is, but added since Obama did the deal. But he's a lauded person with, that is just and China, as you know, continually emits. It used to be even with the United States, and I think it's now 50% higher than the United States. So it's a hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. So when I look at, why I'm pleased is because I think the progressive movement has, some attractive ideas for a lot of people, but their salesmen are hypocritical people. We've seen it in Canada with Justin Trudeau, an absolute hypocrite on everything that he espoused, whether it be the Me Too movement, misogyny, feminism, ethics. It's all, and now he has been discounted. Well, Obama didn't have that record. Mm-hmm. He's now come out and told the world that he is a massive hypocrite. And with respect to endorsing a person that has done blackface more times than anybody that you could imagine.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that before. Somebody doing it once, maybe, but that was his go-to trick. It was so weird.
Yeah, and one of the blackface instances, and I don't know why. I find it offensive. He dressed up like a slave. He put something in his crotch to enhance, and then he mimicked an ape. You can maybe ignore dressing like an Aladdin in blackface. You can maybe ignore other instances. You can maybe ignore him not telling you the truth how many times he did that. But that is about as vile and as offensive. And that's what took Reverend Al Sharpton, who And this is why Obama has really made a big mistake. He's basically diminished his whole 8 years as leader by endorsing Justin Trudeau. Reverend Al Sharpton was his advisor on race relations. He appeared at the Obama's White House 47 times. I believe it was 47 times. He was the person that, if anything happened in America, he was there to stop these racist things. So that was Obama. If you ask yourself, what was his tenure all about? Well, it wasn't about the environment. It wasn't about the economy. It was basically trying to help the race relations in America. And so they worked hard at it.
Yeah. We've got a clip of Al Sharpton who commented on Trudeau's blackface. Here, let's take a quick look at that.
The situation happening with Justin Trudeau with the blackfaces, that's things have been popping up.
I think it's insulting. I think it's offensive. I think that if he wanted forgiveness, he should have said that when he was running the first time. He knew then he had done it. And now he's saying he did it more than once. I think that you can't have different rules for different people. I took the same position against the governor in Virginia as Democrat. I think what Trudeau has done has been disingenuous.
Okay, speaking of Democrats, they have the debate.
That was Al Sharpton. I have my disagreements with Al Sharpton on other matters, but it shows that's a genuine reaction. Manny, I don't know if you saw it, but last week I actually spoke on the telephone with Barack Obama's brother,
yes, I saw that.
Obama, who lives in Kenya. And I talked to him on the phone, and I said, well, what do you think of blackface? And he recorded a short video for The Rebel. Let me play that for you. And I think this is from the heart. Here, take a look. Here's Malik Obama.
This is Malik Obama. I'd like to say something about Justin Trudeau's blackface scandal. For a world leader to do that, especially coming from Canada, which is a good country, is outrageous. So I'd like to condemn that in the strongest terms and let the world know that it's unacceptable. Thank you.
Look, it's just a little bit much for Barack Obama, who scolds everyone else for being racist. He's like Trudeau that way, to give a carte blanche to his buddy just for partisan reasons. I think it shows that Obama's a little bit shallow on this key issue of race.
Well, I know, but Ezra, let's look at it all. I mean, Obama was sitting there, and most Democrats were sitting there attacking the President of the United States, President Trump, with false allegations, not proven, with respect to him being a groper, a sexual assaulter, a racist, obstruction of justice. I mean, they spent 2 years, the Mueller report, $50 million a night, and 2 years to find an obstruction of justice. And there you have Barack Obama seeing across the border his buddy, who was actually proven to have groped a reporter, who's actually acted in a misogynist way by getting rid of 2 honest, competent, top female ministers, who has a history of racism, which you and I did a video on that, an interview. And then he was also found by the ethics commissioner to not only be found in breach of ethics, but to have directed an obstruction of justice. So those 3 things would have said to any, person that believed in their own integrity, maybe I should back off this guy because I'm accusing our president of these things and he's done these things. And then he goes all in. It's like, you're at a poker table, a guy has a straight flush and you've got a pair of 2s and you go all in. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So he goes all in with the blackface, and that just destroys his whole reputation.
I want to ask you one more thing about the United States, because everyone in Canada follows American politics, especially Donald Trump. Everyone in the world follows Donald Trump. But I think most Canadians stay out of individual American races, and most Americans stay out of Canadian races because, first of all, it's going to backfire most of the time. People say, mind your own business. This is our election.
Right.
We can talk later. I think that's a good tradition for countries not to actually meddle. But there's a weird schizophrenia in the Liberal Party. They condemn anything they don't like as American style. And they tried to make a big deal out of the fact that Andrew Scheer's father was American, so Andrew Scheer himself inherited that citizenship, even though he's applied to renounce it. So Andrew Scheer has never voted in an American election. He's never done anything as an American. I don't think he has an American passport, but they tried to make this big deal that his dad was American. At the same time they demonize anything American, they're down in New York City having a secret fundraiser for the Liberal Party. So I don't know how you can suck and blow at the same time. Here's the story in Blacklock's Reporter. Libs find cash in New York. So they're in New York for their victory fund while they're up here bashing Andrew Scheer because his father was an American. I think the Liberals actually are far closer tied to the U.S. Democrats than Canada's Conservatives are to the Republicans, but the media couldn't care less about the Liberal ties to Americans, but they obsess over Canadian ties to Republicans.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely true. On a bigger scale, Ezra, Canadians have been watching for 2 years. Did Russia obstruct with the election? The 2016 election in America. We have seen the Mueller report was basically fundamentally set to see, was there Russian interference or Russian collusion into the American, and you heard the Liberal Democrats, on their soapbox talking about the integrity of elections and there should be no interfering in elections in America, and we Canadians were saying absolutely right. And here you have, it's not even subversive. It's actually open. I mean, you have Barack Obama actually interfering, and I'm looking at the Twitter, and I have some liberal people that tweet and say, "Yahoo! This will help us." Like they're actually interfering into our election openly, and this is after 2 years of Barack Obama setting up this whole Russian collusion discussion and narrative, and which did not exist according to the Mueller report. So on a bigger level, I think Canadians, I don't care. I mean, I don't like anybody interfering into Canada's election. We saw with I forget the French president who says "Vive le Quebec libre." That was. Listen, this is, no one has a right to decide Canadian elections. No one has a right to interfere Canadian elections, and a prominent U.S. politician breaking the rule is as offensive as you get. And I don't care if you're a Liberal, Conservative, or NDP, it should offend you that someone's trying to move the needle in a Canadian election, a foreigner.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, Barack Obama is less malign than Vladimir Putin, but they're both foreigners. Why is an Obama tweet any less offensive than a Putin tweet would be? Manny, can I show you Andrew Scheer's response when he was asked about this? I thought Andrew Scheer gave a pretty good response. Here, let's just play a clip of that. Here's what he had to say.
Mr. Scheer, what do you make of Barack Obama's endorsement of Justin Trudeau today?
I've got millions of Canadians like the ones here tonight behind me. I'm not very interested in what former foreign leaders are saying. I'm just focused on finishing this election strong and putting forward my plan to help Canadians get ahead.
Is it appropriate for a former U.S. president to say something?
I'll let Canadians be the judge of that. Do you think that Mr. Trudeau is calling in favor of I'm not speculating on things like that. I'm just focusing on finishing this campaign strong, earning the trust of Canadians to put forward our plan to help them get ahead. I've got millions of Canadians endorsing me.
Yeah, he just didn't take the bait, and I think he took the energy out of the question. He said, look, I'm focused on Canadians. What an ex-U.S. politician does is not really of interest. I think that's the right approach. I think Canadians are more pro-Obama than Americans are, and I think the CBC or whoever asked that question was trying to goad Scheer into something.
Sure, he did.
Go ahead.
He did a wonderful job. I mean, Ezra, having someone sound like a prime minister and not hearing it for the last 4 years, it was like I was in a desert for 4 years and I saw a cup of water. So I was extremely pleased to see the very mature, proper response. But I too caught what you caught, and it was trying to trap Scheer. What I don't understand about the media is, and I looked at all three national networks reporting on the Obama tweet. And I was hoping, and Ezra, you hope and pray that the media is not as biased as you think, and they always disappoint you. Not one media person even connected the rank hypocrisy of a black president who was elected to help and bridge the racism in America, to actually abandon it all and not even call out, as Reverend Al Sharpton did, the Prime Minister, for his overt racist. And not one media person said, isn't it odd? Or they didn't even question it. They didn't even report it. And that reporter that you just aired, that question, Andrew Scheer, they are not asking the same questions of Justin Trudeau, who should be asked that question. Did you speak to him before? Like, the questions I would ask is, when the blackface incident happened and it broke, did you call Obama and apologize to your friend what you did? Did you speak to him at all? I mean, he's saying he didn't speak to him at all during that campaign, and this tweet came out of nowhere. That's absolutely, come on. I'm not that stupid. I mean, Ezra, if I was caught saying something about Jews, and I was offensive and completely, I kind of would give you a call and say, Ezra, I'm really sorry. I mean, I give some friends a call. He didn't call his best friend. That means that's an absolute lie. And that makes Obama look absolutely terrible. I mean, I'm so glad that every progressive that doesn't truly believe in their values are destroying the values of what poor progressive people want. And that's really what comes out of this to me, is that, this is going to make progressive. I mean, the last progressive leader falls on his sword, and I don't know if it's financial, and I don't know what Barack Obama, why he did it. It certainly isn't for any real patriotic or real principled reason, that's for sure.
Well, Manny, as you know, because you watched the debates, it was our reporter Kean Bexty who actually asked Trudeau if he called foreign leaders. He didn't mention Barack Obama, he mentioned other world leaders, and Trudeau just ignored the question twice. Well,
and it was a great question. It was a great question, and someone should ask the question, did you call your best friend and apologize for that? And not one media has asked that, except for yours, who asked it generally.
I'm so glad we were in that debate and we got that federal court order. Man, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming on the show. Congrats on you had an excellent campaign, and because you were using law and politics and facts and logic and arguments, I think that's why you caught fire. And you mentioned being on the front page of Reddit. Reddit, for our viewers who don't know, it's like a bulletin board on the internet, but it's populated by generally people 18 to 24. So Manny, you're a seasoned pro who's been there, done that. And you say you got an inner teacher inside you. Well, you've also got hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of eager students who love what you say. So I hope you keep it up.
Thank you very much, Ezra. Thanks a lot.
Well, it's great to have you on the show. There you have it, our friend Manny Montenegro. He is the CEO of Think Sharp, based in Ottawa. And as you know, part of his wisdom comes from having been Stephen Harper's lawyer when he was Prime Minister. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.